All right. Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. Although I can't see you, it's great to see everyone virtually. As you all know, my name is Dan Farr. I'm the Director of Business Services at the Somerset County Business Partnership. I am very excited to be announcing today's speaker. I'm going to keep my intro very brief because I know there's a lot of great information. And as much as an ego as I have, I know you didn't come here to see me today. So just a quick overview. We're going to be talking about the Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program. This is going to be phase 4. We're going to hear from Maggie. Obviously, this is going to be something for restaurants, childcare providers, so many different topics. There's going to be for micro businesses. So this is really going to be a wonderful webinar. Thank you all on behalf of the partnership community for attending. I hope you get. I don't hope. I know you'll get a lot of great information. So with that said, I'm very excited to introduce Maggie Peters. And I'm going to fade into the background, but we are going to be doing Q&A, so don't be shy. We want to make sure you get the most out of today as possible. So with that said, Maggie, the floor is yours. Thank you so much. Maggie, you're on mute. Unmute.
Good morning. Sorry. I am a program manager in the Small Business Services Division at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the phase 4 grant for small businesses that we have. We are in the pre-registration period now. So we're taking pre-registrations, and then everyone's going to get an opportunity to fill out the application. So let me just go to my presentation and share it. So can everybody see it?
Yes, we can, Maggie.
Okay, do I need to make it larger or anything?
Yes, so you would go into hitting your right at the bottom of your screen, bottom right, you can see the present. Yep, right there near the Zoom, the next one over. That's correct. You are now set to go. Oh, wait, you just have to change it. You have 2 screens, so you're just going to have to
shut mine off.
Or change it over to display settings. You should hit display settings at the top. And swap presenter view and slideshow. You are now 100% ready to go, Maggie.
Thank you so much. Okay, so here are some statistics on our overall COVID-19 relief programs for businesses at the Economic Development Authority. We've approved over $55,500 and provided support for $257 million. And there's going to be a lot more coming down the pike beyond even the phase 4 that I'm going to discuss today, the phase 4 grant program. So here is a snapshot of the economic relief programs that we've done at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. So we have our Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program. So this is phase 4. So this is the first 3 phases. We have a loan program for small businesses. We have a Sustain and Serve program, $14 million in support. So this is a program that we fund our New Jersey restaurants so that they can feed hungry people in New Jersey. Small and micro business PPE access program. So PPE has been so difficult to get in the beginning and expensive to maintain. So the EDA has gotten involved in creating more access to PPE for small businesses. We have worked with our CDFIs, our community development financial institutions throughout the state. So those are basically micro business lenders with very favorable terms so that small businesses can get access to the capital they need throughout the entire state. Our entrepreneur support program, so that's $2 million in investment, totaling $2.5 million. So that is part of our tech services for our entrepreneurs. And then technical assistance. We know that small businesses need different types of training, and especially transitioning to the new normal, basically, and helping small businesses utilize e-commerce and make sure that they've adapted their business plans and their business models. So this is our Small Business Emergency Assistance Grant Program Phase 4 presentation. So this is how this program is going to work. So this program, like I said in the beginning, is in the pre-registration phase. You are required to pre-register to be able to fill out the application. So make sure that that's happening. So up to 50 full-time employees, actually full-time equivalents, not employees. It has to be a certain amount of hours. And we determine those hours by using a WR30. Award size is up to $20,000. And this rollout of the Phase 4 has been in phases depending on need. So targeted funding for restaurants, childcare, small and micro businesses. And these are the funding allocations or the buckets for those categories. I just want to go back to one thing. Pre-registration is open until the 29th. So we're going from the 19th to the 29th. So there's still more time to pre-register. And you have to pre-register online. Make sure that you have a lot of your paperwork ready, like your formation documents and your EIN, your tax returns. And if you've applied for any other EDA programs, make sure that you have, if possible, some idea of what you applied for, because we're going to want to know if you applied for any of the other phases of the grant. Okay, so do not forget pre-registration, April 19th through the 29th to be eligible. You have to be pre-registered, and then this is the link to pre-register. And then if you did not apply in Phase 3, or you applied and were not approved for Phase 3, you're eligible to apply May 3rd. If you don't know, just apply. That's what I always tell people, because we will look through that at the end. You get through the process faster if you have all your information ready and if you know what you've already received. But I don't want to have anyone not apply because they're not sure. So May 3rd, the application opened for anyone who did not get a Phase 3 grant. 5.5, restaurants and childcare. 5.10. The application opens for all micro businesses. And then 5.12, that's going to be just anyone with 6 to 50 employees, full-time equivalents. Okay, so here's another illustration of how to apply, and depending on who you are and if you received a Phase 3. So this is the Phase 4 for restaurants. So if you're a restaurant, 5 or fewer employees, $10,000 potential grant award. 6 to 25, $15,000 potential grant award, and 26 to 50. 50 is the max. So to understand, so there's all different types of restaurants, right? Eat in, carry out, 722, your NAICS code has to begin with 722 for you to qualify as a restaurant for this program. Childcare. So this is the same thing, 50 or fewer employees, the same, 10, 15, 20, depending on your amount of employees. So for a childcare provider, your NAICS code needs to be 624410. So it's different than the 722 for the restaurants. It's more particular on this one. It has to be this exact NAICS code. You have to have a physical location in New Jersey. You must be registered to do business in New Jersey. Those are true for every business sector eligible for this program. You must be in good standing with the Department of Labor, and that's something that we're going to check. You must fill out and certify your debarment legal questionnaire. So there's like 6 or 7 questions in the application that must be completed in order to qualify. And of course, you're going to have to show for all of these Phase 4 programs that you have been negatively affected by the pandemic. And you have to certify that there is no intent for you to lay off your staff. So that one is May 5th at 9. So here is the micro business portion of this program, which is May 10th at 9. So all of these applications for all of these categories are a first come, first served basis. So that's why, sometimes it can be difficult to get in, and that's why we've extended the time and created a pre-registration period so that everyone has a chance to gather what they need to apply and apply. It helps, to not make mistakes. So we want to just keep pushing the preparedness aspect of it. That way you get through the process easily with, not as many levels of review. So micro businesses with 5 or fewer employees are eligible for a maximum grant of $10,000. And I just want to stress the maximum because it just depends on a lot of other factors, including whether or not you received a phase 3 grant from the EDA. And we're also, determining that there has been a negative impact by the pandemic. So same rules of eligibility apply. You must have a physical location in New Jersey. You must be registered to do business. You have to clear all of our back end checks, with Department of Labor and Taxation. You have to certify through the legal questionnaire, show your negative impact, and promise not to lay off any employees. Okay, so other small businesses. Wednesday, May 12th at 9. This is for businesses with 6 through 50 employees that are not restaurants or child care providers. Same things apply. Most businesses and not-for-profits, which I haven't mentioned previously, not-for-profits are eligible. And then the same rules of eligibility apply with the physical location and business registration. So look at the, notice the full-time equivalents, 6 through 25 get $10,000 maximum award, and 25 through 50, $15,000 maximum award. Okay, so this is the required information for phase 4. And I'm gonna go through this, and then I'm gonna take you through some of the application slides just so you can be familiar. So you can look at a sample application at this website, business.nj.gov/COVID. And it helps just so that you can be the most prepared as possible. Make sure that everything is saved on your computer and that you can just upload it. It will really help expedite the amount of time it takes to fund the grant. We're going to be looking if you've received any other government assistance. So the phase 3 that I talked about before, but also PPE, EIDL, and the economic injury disaster grant as well. County and municipal funding counts as well. And just make sure that you're prepared to provide information regarding the status of those. Anything else that you may have gotten, because if you never got it, we're not counting it. If you just applied for a PPP or something, we're not counting it. But if you don't know, then we're still in a position of, not being able to make a decision on your application. So we need to know your business's full legal name and the one that appears on your formation documents for the state of New Jersey. We're going to need to know your entity type, and that can be found on your tax returns. We're going to want to know what year you were established. So that goes back to your formation documents. You can tell us what year you're established, but there is going to need to be documentation. So that can be found on your formation documents. Tax ID number that is on your tax returns. We're going to need to know your peak full-time equivalent count from your business's last 8 quarters of WR30 filings. So, that's something that you would file every year with the state. And so whatever the peak employment was over the last 8, we're going to need just, you're going to have to upload a PDF of that. So you can take a picture of it and upload it, or if you already have it on your computer, you can just upload it. But it's important that that documentation comes in clear, because we don't, then we get into like authenticity issues, like, is this real? And it's just, if everything is done correctly, you can really get through this process quickly. 2019 and 2020 annual revenue lost. We're going to want to compare quarters to understand the impact of the pandemic on your business. And we're going to want to quantify it with a number. business registration requirement. So a business must be registered to do business in the state of New Jersey, and we're going to need to know that through a current registration status with the New Jersey Division of Taxation, and we are going to check that. So just make sure that you are in good standing with taxation. If a business is not recognized by taxation, you're going to have to go and print out or email over a business registration certificate, which is not hard to get. But you do have a time frame on it. So we put a 4-week time frame from the initial notification when we tell you, you're not recognized from taxation. So if you do have an issue, you'll have to clear it up, and then you'll have to give us a business registration certificate, which is not difficult to do, but clearing up the issues depending on what they are can be difficult to do. And at the EDA, it's private information. We can't help. The taxation is not going to tell us a whole lot about what the issue is. So it'll be completely on the applicant. And that's why we do give 4 weeks, because it can take some time, especially with everything, taxation and other government agencies are all doing quite a bit of work. So things are taking a little bit longer. So no grant agreement will be executed without a current registration status from taxation. So that's the business registration certificate. And a grant agreement is what you would get once you are approved. So you go through the process and you work with us to get all the information. Then you would receive a grant agreement, and then you would sign it, and then we would disperse the grant. But you would need a business registration certificate to do it. And also you could just go online and type in your EIN and the first 4 letters of your business name and find out if it does generate a business registration certificate. Okay, so 33% of the phase 4 funding is reserved for eligible businesses in the Opportunity Zone census tracts. So it has been a cornerstone of the Murphy administration and is now part of any of the EDA's programs. We make sure that we do a set aside for businesses that are in the Opportunity Zone census tracts throughout the state. I can't remember how many there are throughout the state, but you can go on this website and check and see if you are in one, if you are unaware that you are. So there's a mapping tool and everything. This is handled through the Department of Community Affairs. So when you get this presentation, you can just click that link and check. It really isn't on the business to figure it out. It would just be out of curiosity. We are checking every business address as they come in to see if they are in an opportunity zone anyway. So there's no bonus or anything, but here's how to find out if you are. Okay, so we put this application out, in multiple languages, making sure that everybody who wants to apply can. Okay, so I'm going to go through right now the sample pre-registration forms. Okay, so here is the portal where you would apply, and here are the dates that you would apply depending on what industry you're in, and the application is right at the bottom. Okay, so the beginning, and this is so important, when you create, if you don't already have an account, you'll have to create one. And make sure that you know what your password is and your, what email you used and what password you put in, because if you need to go back in for some reason, or if you need to reapply for an EDA program and you don't know your credentials, then you have to reset it, and IT has to reset it, and it's a whole nother process. You'll be able to check on the status of your application if you know your login information, and you'll be able to go back in and do different things going forward. Okay, so we want you to fill in all of the information that you see on this page. Confirm that your address is correct. Take the time to make sure that there are no typos, that your EIN is correct, that all your emails are correct. We're going to contact you through the email that you provide. So please make sure you're checking it. It just moves the process along a lot more quickly, and write down the email that you provided us and everything, because it can take a few weeks, and it's easy to forget what email you might have used or something like that. So we did this pre-registration window on purpose, and we made it a long window on purpose so that people feel like they have the time to enter all the information correctly and provide as much documentation as possible. Okay, so once your information is complete, you will need to confirm your email. And this is the process. I'm not going to take you through the whole process, but this presentation will be available to you. And there is a sample application on the COVID portal website. Okay, so this is how you would start. This is what it would look like. Start my pre-registration. You would have already created a username by then. First name, last name. Next, business address. So make sure that it's your business address and not your personal address, because if we do have the wrong address, a person has to reach back out to you and re-review your whole application. So if everything's right, the process is pretty automated. But if not, then it just takes longer to get your disbursement. We do figure it out though. Okay, so date your business was operational. So that is, available on your formation document. And then here's the other questions. Are you operating today? What is your ownership structure? So are you an LLC, a sole prop? And then anyone with over 10% or greater in ownership of your business has to be listed on here. EIN. I can't stress how important it is that your EIN is correct. It's how we're going to do every back-end check with Department of Labor and with Treasury. And if we can't do those checks, then it's impossible for us to move the application forward without reaching out to you, the applicant. So everything's automated unless your EIN is not matching your company name and other bits of information you entered. So here you're going to answer even more questions about, your tax returns and whether you file a Schedule C, because we are going to be looking at gross income, not your net income for your business, your gross. So number of full-time equivalent employees, we're going to be looking for those 8 quarters, whatever the highest is for those 8 quarters. And it's W-2 employees only. And then we're looking for the revenue numbers. We're comparing total for 2019 annual revenue and total 2020 annual revenue, just so we can determine the pandemic loss, the revenue loss from the pandemic. NAICS code, essential. Make sure you're applying at the right time and knowing your NAICS code. Okay, so religious affiliation, that's if you're like a not-for-profit or a religious organization, make sure you check that right, because if you check that you're religiously affiliated and you're not, then it triggers a whole nother level of review. And we had a lot of people in the first 3 rounds who just accidentally checked that they were religiously affiliated and they weren't. And the same goes for lobbying. Make sure that if you are not lobbying or you are not religiously affiliated, that you choose the right section. Okay, so we're going to be looking at your tax returns, the gross revenue. So this is what we're going to need, what years were filed. Okay, so duplication of benefit affidavit. The money that we are dispersing is federal money. And so that's why we asked a lot of questions about have you gotten a PPP or anything else from the SBA, an EIDL or an EIDG, because we want to make sure we're not duplicating the benefit with using the same money for the same reasons. And we are going to ask for documentation on that too. So like if you say like you got a PPP for this amount, there should be some email or something that you can provide with the number just so we can document it. So here is what you're going to check in terms of what you've applied for previously. So, the first few are the federal, and then you're going to get into the, NJEDA stuff. And then counties are also using CARES money and spreading it throughout their communities. So just make sure you know something about what you've gotten. So here is the Paycheck Protection Program information, what you've applied for, what the amounts are. And then the approved totals, I mean, that's really what we're looking for, like the total amount, so that we can make sure we're not duplicating the benefit. Okay, so we're also looking for you to designate when, you know, what type of business you are. And then on the right, you'll see the business details. We want, you know, there are certain prohibited businesses through this state program. So just make sure you're answering these questions about gambling and different things. If you're, you know, a store that's selling lottery tickets, you're still completely eligible. That's not the kind of gambling that we're talking about. You know, adult videos and stuff like that, bankruptcy sales, things like that, outdoor storage. Okay, and here's the legal questionnaire that I had talked about a few times in the beginning. They're pretty simple questions, but they need to be answered honestly because there are background checks on the names of the owners and the names of the businesses. So there's just these 6 questions here about, you know, legal issues that you might have had for your business. You know, things like DWIs and stuff like that, they don't really count. It's really like having to do with your business. Okay, so then you do your last part, which is the waiver here. Electronic signature, which is essential. And then your pre-registration will be submitted, and we will, please make sure that you write down your MOLA number here. That is your application number. And if you need to follow up with the EDA at any point, you know, did my application go through? What is the status of my application? That number will help tremendously. We'll be able to find it right away. Okay, so here is how we determine full-time equivalent employees. So we're going to be looking at your WR30, the highest of the 8 quarters, and we're going to be plugging this in. Whoever's reviewing your application is going to be plugging it in. So on your WR30, it's going to say the weeks that each employee worked. And so we're going to be plugging that in, and it's going to calculate a total number of full-time equivalents, just making sure that the company is not over the amount. Okay, so the questions will focus heavily on the impact of COVID-19 on your business. So here are some of the details on that. We're going to be looking at revenue loss, like I said, gross income, looking at 19 versus 20. And then we're going to be wanting to know exactly what the grant would be used for, this phase 4 grant. And of course, we want to make sure that you don't plan to lay off any employees. This grant should be able to help you keep your employees. And that's it.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much, Maggie, for presenting.
You're welcome.
I think this would be a great time to move into a Q&A with Alberto from the NJEDA.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Medina. Well, we had a few questions. I'll just go through the first one. If my business falls into 2 categories, this is from Matthew, micro businesses and restaurants, should I simply apply on the earliest date?
It depends on what your NAICS code is.
Okay. And if they have received any funding also on phase 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Another question he had, my suffering restaurant business opened in early 2020, so I don't have a comparison with 2019. How do I prove that sales are suffering?
So we will do that calculation on our end. If your business hasn't been open for long enough to make that calculation, then we will find a way to quantify it. Just make sure you're ready with bank statements and different ways, because we will look at a different quarter and sometimes replicate that for the 19 that you weren't open.
Okay. Another question from Victoria. She's asking, do we need to have a physical non-residential address, or is it sufficient to have a physical mailing address that is not the residence of one of the principals?
Huh. Say that again. I'm not sure I understand that one.
Do we need to have a physical non-residential address, I imagine in the state of New Jersey, or is it sufficient to have a physical mailing address that is not the residence of one of the principals?
Yes, avoid PO boxes though, because we're going to want to make some link to you. You know, if this is a situation where like maybe you're living with family or something like that, you know, we can note the account that's the, you know, that's the situation. But it will trigger, you know, you will have to probably speak with someone and figure out, you know, note the account on what the details are.
Okay, and the last question that we have so far, although I think we have a new one, but the last one is, if we did not apply for phase 3, are we able to apply on May 3rd? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay, where do we find our official NAICS code that is on file?
So you should be, you know, your accountant would know probably. It's probably on your tax return as well. Yeah, there could be a couple places you could find it, like maybe even on your formation documents when you incorporated your business.
Okay. And if anybody else has another question, because I think that's about what we have right now.
That I think is really great for the small business owners, Maggie, is what are some of the best practices in preparing for this, for the pre-registration? What are some of the best practices or common things they should watch out for?
I mean, I wouldn't say that there's anything that someone should watch out for, but just as a state agency, make sure that you are following the direction, make sure that you are applying at the right time for you. And I mean, make sure you're prepared to upload all the documents that we're asking for. You know, make sure you have the tax returns, the formation documents, your WR30s. We only need one, you know, one from the, you know, the highest quarter out of the 8 quarters, because your application could go through seamlessly if we have everything we need. But once it starts, you know, once a person has to review it, then there's a queue, right? It's a human reviewing each piece of information that you know, entered, and applying at the right time, of course, too, so that you don't get kicked to, you know, so that we're not trying to move it to another place or a better time, and knowing that NAICS code too, of course.
Okay. We have an additional question here from Victoria. What if you do not have any W-2 employees, but only 1099 contractors?
Okay, so the 1099s won't count, and that in that case, you will not have a WR30. So you just say that. You just say, you know, you're a sole prop, or, you know, whatever your formation is, and we'll know that you don't have any, you won't have any W-2 employees, and you won't have a WR30.
Okay. Another question from Matthew. Should I submit all bank statements for the business started in early 2000? Or is there an, excuse me, or is there an option to submit additional documents?
So if you started your business in early 2000, you won't need to submit your bank statements. You'll have tax returns for the right amount of years.
Okay. Just a side note, I'm adding in the chat a link where you can find this presentation that Maggie just did for your reference in case you need to review any other information or share it with other business owners. So there it is. Let me see. I think that's all we got so far.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for presenting in Q&A. Dan, would you like to come on and help us close out? And if you had any questions, you can, of course, be sure to add.
No, I just want to say thank you so much to Maggie Alberto Medina. Thank you so much for putting this together. Thank you to NJEDA for not only providing great resources, but for putting it together in an organized and easy fashion to understand. We'll be sure to share, you know, whatever information we can share in terms of contact information, resources, and yeah, on behalf of the Somerset County Business Partnership community and Somerset business community, thank you so much to the NJEDA, and feel free to reach out with any questions. That's it. Happy Friday, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Thank
Yeah, so
you.
thank you, everybody.